Right, so I've just given the flywheel a clean with brake cleaner. Now on this particular one it is dowelled, so the dowel in the crankshaft there, that goes through that little hole there. Make sure you clean the outer edge as well. Same with this side of the flywheel, and I've given it a clean, it doesn't look like it. And all I'm going to do with the bolts is just put a little bit of Loctite on them, only a little bit, as there was Loctited in from the factory. Ready? I just thought I'd tire the dogs out because they seem to be getting a bit needy and wanting the ball throwing. So, before I fit the clutch, I'll just do a quick comparison with the old one and show you what actually happened. So I think you can tell the obvious problem, but all the springs are so worn. So this is the reason it was rattling. But it started getting to the point where the pedal was actually stuck. It wouldn't go down. So you turn it off, turn it back on, and then it would free itself up. Reason being is this spring had fell out into the actual pressure plate, not the pressure plate, into the clutch fingers. So as the release bearing was trying to push the fingers in, this spring, which is broke as well, was actually trapped like that in the fingers. So, and then the clutch on top, so it was just seized solid. You couldn't push the pedal down at all. So this is a known fault with the Puma clutches. Now if you look at the friction material, I think it's done, I'm sure it's done 76,000, and there's plenty of life left in the material on both sides. So it is quite annoying that the springs aren't up to the job. So this is why I've got in touch with Luke from Loft Cultures to supply a new one. So that now is scrap. There's nothing we can do with that. So we'll just have a look, see if there's a bit of a difference. Now the pressure plate I've got to clean up with brake cleaner before fitting, because it's still got the manufacturer's oil on it. That needs wiping off before installing. So it does feel, let me just put that back down. Take that off for now. Now there is a bit of a difference in weight. This does feel a little bit heavier, but I think near enough it's the same clutch. So apart from the fact it's bright green, I do think the fingers are a little bit stronger as well. But it does feel like a really good quality piece of kit. But this is the main problem that Land Rovers suffer with. So you can still see the springs, they're solid, they're not moving. Neither is the centre. There's nothing. You can't even turn them. Whereas in the old one, you can do what you want with them. So the first thing I've noticed straight away is the new clutch plate is heavier than the old one. Not by much, but there's a considerable weight difference. Obviously there's no movement in the centre, there's no movement in the springs. There's the old one, that's ready for coming out as well. In the centre there's a load of movement, and you can imagine the noise it was making before the spring dropped out. But really I'm lucky that the spring stopped inside and didn't do further damage really. But as soon as it happened, I took the Land Rover off the road, and so I knew what had happened. So yeah, I'll show you how to fit the clutch, and then we'll get the gearbox on, and then it's ready to go back in the Land Rover. So with a bit of brake cleaner, all you need is a cloth, just a bit on there, just to clean the surface up of the clutch plate. Just before fitting. So with the kit, I've got an alignment tool. Put it in the spigot bearing, and then you put the clutch plate over the top. Obviously gearbox side, this side faces the gearbox. That bit goes in there, and you put that through into the spigot bearing, and that then keeps your clutch central, so that when you put the case on, the clutch stays where it is, and it's easier to get the gearbox on. And that is worth every penny on whatever clutch job you're doing. Might necessarily not be this one. It just helps. You can get adjustable ones, but if there's a specific one for the job you're doing, it's only a couple of pounds, it's just worth it. So clutch alignment tool in the spigot bearing, clutch plate, making sure gearbox side is facing towards you. Put that in, and then it's a case of putting the cover on. So line it up with the dowels. And then what I do is you can just adjust your clutch. So that's now, let's have a quick look. That's now sat central. And then I always put the bolts in just finger tight all the way around, and then tighten one, miss one, tighten the other, and then you can see that your clutch has gone on square. So all the bolts now are touching the clutch cover. So we'll start with this one. Just tighten it a few turns, miss one, and then go to the next. Miss another one. And what that's doing, it's pulling your clutch cover on square, and you can see with the gap from the other bolts. You'll start to see the fingers going as well. Oh, nearly. Right, so the 3 bolts are tight, well nipped, 3 bolts are nipped, so it's just a case of tightening the other ones up now. So you can see that they've all gone on nice and square. So they're all nipped. So you can see how flat the clutch fingers are now. And just check your clutch has gone on. Check your clutch is still central, which it is. And just go around them all. Just a case of pulling that out, make sure it goes in back into the spigot, then you know your clutch is central. So with any clutch kit you get a new release bearing. So on the Fords and Land Rovers you have got adaptions to go on. So they've all got these little horseshoe type clips. So you need to remove that from the bell housing before you can then slide it out the gearbox. One, that should now slide out. Three Torx bits of the release bearing on. That was quite tight. Clean the threads up on that before I put it in. And then it just slides off. Put a new one on now. I've just cleaned the bolt up that was tight. That goes in there. The new bleed nipple and pipe. So that, I don't think you can see on the camera, that's got a little cutout, so you can only fit it one way. So when fitted, it will be like that. So I've actually pushed the clip in, so that when I push down on this, the clip will automatically clip in. Like that. So that's a release bearing in. And this is the little adapter that you get with the release bearing. So just pull out, again leaving the clip in. There we go. And that's fitted. So I've got the crane out to help me lift the gearbox on. What I'm going to do is line it up with the crane, and then I can then wiggle it into the clutch. So the crane's doing the hard work. I can imagine doing this without somebody helping you, or without the crane. You're going to do your backing, or you're going to do an injury, because it is a heavy gearbox. All I need to do is line the gearbox up roughly best I can with the engine, and then once the teeth interlock into the clutch, then shove the gearbox in. Be wary, I've not took the crank sensor out, I've left it there. But be wary, because if you hit that, you're going to damage it and then the engine won't start. It should flag up a fault code, but we don't want to damage anything if we can. So let's have a go. See how well it goes. I've cleaned the holes from the dowels from the engine to the gearbox as well, just to ease it on that a little bit easier. So let's see how we get on. Sometimes it can be a real struggle and sometimes it can go straight in. Get the ruler in. Right, that's it, we're on. Right, push it forward. Downstairs, put the brakes on that. Whew. It was a little bit, well, it didn't want to go on at first then. Yeah, we're in. We're definitely in. Whew. He's on roll. He's on roll. Where's your ball gone? Where's your ball? Go and get your ball. I'm supposed to be tightening this gearbox up and you're like, play. I want to play. I want to play. Come on. Right, that's all the bell housing bolts tight. So what I'm going to do now, put a strap around the engine and then lift it onto the trolley. And I'll then lift the transfer box on. It's all one unit then to pick up back in the Land Rover. Hey, Roo. Right, so now we're going to lift the engine and the gearbox onto the trolley. It just makes it easier for fitting the transfer box, and I can wheel this over to the Land Rover when we're ready to fit everything back in. So that reason the strap's there is because that the mounting to lift the engine in isn't the strongest, so I've just put that strap around it to support it. Because the weight of the gearbox wants to pull the engine down and puts a lot more strain on that mount. So that's just to help it out really. What's up, Will? What's up? Hey. Go on, Natalie. Move. Good boy. Let's do that now. That's nice and sturdy now. So I've just put 2 blocks of wood from the engine mountings, same at the other side, 1 under the middle of the gearbox and 2 under the bell housing, just to keep it from rocking about. That's why I want to fit the transfer box. So now I've got the engine sturdy, we can now fit the output shaft into the cup. So, very important bit. All I'm going to do is just run the grease around the outside, making sure it's in the teeth of the shaft, and then the same with the cup. And then once it's in, this little spring here locks it in tight. This seal then goes over the top, and then this bracket clamps onto the cup to hold the seal in, and that keeps all the grease in. So same with the cup, put a layer of grease all the way around the inside, sorry, and then just work it into the teeth and just use all the grease in the little bag. If you rotate it to see all the way around, you've filled the entire thing full of it. So what you've got to do now is put the shaft inside the cup until the spring locks in. Now this it will be tight because the grease will make an airlock onto the cup. You can hear the air escaping. So rubber hammer, just so you don't damage the end of the shaft. You can hear the air escaping. And that's nearly flush now. You will get some grease come out. That's quite normal, there's nothing you can do about that. So you will get a bit of excess grease that comes out as you push it in. Just wipe it off. The shaft that goes in the gearbox. Yeah, alright, it's not going to hurt anything. So the lugs that stick out go in the lugs in the cup. And then the little plastic clamp, shove that over the top, and that then clips behind the cup to stop that seal coming out, and that's what holds the grease in. So once you've got the plastic collar over the cup, I'll show you on the old one. You've got little tracks all the way around. You need to get a cable tie from the bottom, obviously, around into the tracks and then tighten it up. And this stops the collar from coming off the cup when obviously this is spinning at high speed. So you can't get it very, very tight. Well, just tight enough just to hold the hooks down, just so it's not going to come off when it's spinning. So I can't pull the hooks off now, so that's tight enough, and then just cut the end off. And that's it. So now we're ready to put the transfer box onto the gearbox. So I've just put the transfer box on the crane. Main reason the crane's doing all the work is because I really don't want to do my backing, lifting it on. So I might as well let this do all the hard work, and same as the gearbox, just guide it onto the shaft and then put the bolts in. There we go. So I've just put those brackets on temporary because I can't remember which way around they go. So once I fit it into the Land Rover, put the loom over the top, and I'll be able to work out which way they go then. So the only thing left to do on this now is change the handbrake shoes, and then it's ready to be fitted back in the Land Rover. Before I fit it back into the Land Rover, I've got to do the front two brake pipes. I could do it after, but I might as well do it before. That's one of them there, nothing enough. So make new brake pipes up and then fit the engine back in the Land Rover.